axis. I don't know. And we were like, oh god, early game snowballing is insane. So that's where trinkets came from. So we were just
It's trinkets. Is Cloud9 got us trinkets?
Well,
it's Lemon's fault for dying at level 1.
Yes,
everything's Lemon's fault for dying.
So preseason, I want to start this off. A lot of the conversations we're gonna be having here we're kind of in the theory zone. We're kind of in the philosophical zone, right? We've had you playing a grand total of 1.5 games on it yesterday. Matthias, you've played many.
A few more. Just a few more than that.
Very, very many. Playtesting over the course of a couple months, and then you've obviously spent a whole ton of time with your team working on it. But I want to get thoughts. I want to get speculation. I want us to really get our thoughts out on the table here about what it is that's going on. So to kick us off of the billion changes that are happening, it's hashtag 78 pages. Vision. We have a whole ton of changes to Vision, but the big ticket is stealth wards removed from the shop. How is this going to affect the game?
Vision for a long time has been, since it was purchasable, one person's job to kind of light up a map. We saw that pretty consistently. Maybe two people's job if you're playing at a high enough level.
Right.
The shift this year is about how can we make it more of a team objective that the team works for, and you can't relegate to one or two people on the team.
As one of those people that has long since been relegated to warding all the time, how do you feel about this change? How do you think it's going to impact things?
I don't see the site ward changes, Vision ward changes being too much. I think early game it could make it more passive, where if I know for me, I know for most players, if you don't see a jungler, you don't know where they are, you're not gonna play aggressive. Without Vision, it's very hard to play aggressive. So,
I mean, that's what the trinket changes are about though, right? Like making the trinkets a more on-demand, more frequent uptime. Oh, I'm worried about the jungler, let me go throw it on my yellow, and the next time I'm scared about it, I'll still have a charge left. That is why we changed those trinkets, is to make sure that for your lane, you have enough vision to take action without the big swings in vision you could get from someone who bought a couple green wards.
Right, it feels almost like you're gonna be rewarded for warding more smartly, kind of knowing where the jungler is going to be or getting an idea of where they are on the map, and then, hey, they're top side, I need to get some wards down here, I need to play safe. Okay, if they're probably bot side, I don't need to ward, I can go in and fight. There's a lot more strategic decisions in when and where you place your wards, as opposed to just, hey, my lane's warded up forever, this is cool, I'm gonna farm away.
I mean, the map's gonna be darker. This is explicitly, the map should be a bit darker, and everyone should be opting into this game.
Are you excited to be the one telling your team to buy wards?
I already do, actually.
Yeah.
But now they have no excuse not to buy pink wards because they're not only cheaper and they're only wards you can buy. So
yeah.
I expect to see 5 pink wards on my team every single game.
But I think what's actually interesting about that is it turns the support and the jungler into kind of a roaming form of vision control. And what I mean is not that they're putting wards down and creating vision. I mean that since all wards, or most wards, are visible now, clearing them becomes more of a trivial task, which means that defending them is actually much more important. There's a lot of ways now to set up fights around wards, and that was the case before, but I think it's going to be more immediately obvious. If this ward is something that can just go down to anyone who walks by, there's gonna be a lot of fights over wards, even at, I think, lower levels, because they're much more distinct and notable.
I mean, that's definitely the hope, right? A lot of these changes are about making this a more accessible, understandable, and reliable part of a game, rather than a thing where you're like, cool, I have this green thing,
right.
I put it here, and for most levels of play, no one will ever know that it was there.
I don't know, man. I feel like I'm just gonna get that big sweeper thing and just walk everywhere. I don't care where you put your words. I think people are gonna be more creative with their words. You're not gonna have 8 corpses in this one brush.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna be like that.
But it just seems that sweeper is stronger, and when sweeper is stronger, it means wards are more impactful. But because you can't buy wards anymore, you're just gonna rely on your sight zone, and I feel like vision control is gonna be even stronger. And it's just like this cascading effect.
Yeah, it's like, oh god, this thing points to this thing being stronger. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the result out of this game is gonna be more snowballing. More snowball means fast game time. I don't know. It's just things are all over the place, and it feels like
So the rotation we've had in our game was kind of everyone was like, oh, the yellow trinket doesn't feel that great anymore. It doesn't upgrade that well. Maybe I should go blue or sweeper, and everyone's going sweeper. And then only one person has a sight zone, and the sweeper person's like, where are the wards? I want to kill wards.
This has no value. This is awful.
So I think it will take time for people to settle and like figure out, hey, do I need this sweeper? Where am I going?
What is it that you really hope to see out of kind of the vision changes and the overhaul that's happening right now?
it's just these changes. I really hope to see more fights, bottom lane 2v2s. I want laners that are strong be able to dominate.
So one thing I've noticed in top lane is a lot of times the winning top laner, or even someone who has a slight edge, will pink ward their brush, trinket farther down, and then just contest any fight at that pink ward by the top laner. It means they have enough vision control that they can maintain vision control and also go aggressive all the time.
The downside is that if the top laner who you're playing against is scared and they're weaker, they're never going to contest your wards.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This is a very interesting change.
I mean, it's a little absolute, right? Like,
Yeah.
you still have a jungler. There's still power swings, and like this also does feed into other changes we've made, right? Where like we are pulling the jungler's top more often because of Rift Herald. We are doing lots of more cohesive things to make aggression work.
Yeah, you just touched on it right as I was about to get there. So let's go there now. Rift Herald. Now there is a thing top lane, right? For the entirety of League of Legends, there's just been Dragon, whether it gave gold or buffs or whatever. And so what we really kind of saw is everyone just taking teleport, right? Because what's the best way to play League of Legends? Impacting the bottom side of the map, right? Flexibly being able to do this and had so many benefits, has all these other things. Now there is a really strong reason to pick lane dominant characters, right? Pick junglers that want to scrap, right? But, you know, I still don't know how this is going to shake out because we haven't added something this big. I think this may be like low-key the biggest change that we're doing. It might not even be the flashiest, but what are we expecting and what are we really worried about here with the introduction of Rift Herald?
In my experience, it puts a lot of pressure on top lane to really be more of like, not this farm fest, but this dominant lane control thing. One, the weaker towers allow you to push early, and this Rift Herald gives you a Baron buff, essentially, which allows you to push even more. And then the fact that all the towers are weaker means you just kind of go from tower to tower to tower, pushing and pushing. If you're a champion like Trundle or Nasus or Tryndamere, once you get that lead, it just sort of feels like you can make a huge impact on the game where you couldn't previously. And I think that's going to force a lot of aggression because whoever doesn't control that is actually giving up on something. If you stay safe and farm under tower, that's an objective you've just lost.
Main goal of this one is give burly dudes who win top a thing that lets them show, cool, I win. This is what you better stop me from getting. And then, of course, single man Baron buff. You guys better come kill me. Yes, I killed your top laner. You better come fight me.
It seems like the big burly guy is gonna come back in a massive form. Either that or 2v1s. I don't really know. But that buff seems really strong because once you get it, that top laner is going to be able to 1v1 anybody, not only because they have a mini Baron buff, it's just that the minions are even stronger, so they can't even fight you in minions. It's just like, this is a massive change of massive ripple effects, where earlier we were talking about the small changes of massive rippling effects. This is just going to change the game so much, and honestly, bot laners, we don't be called top laners now. Like, that's the kind of changes that these things are going to make the game. It's just, I don't even know what to start, but I know these are big, big changes.
Yeah.
And I think the movement towards like visible, very destroyable wards now makes this objective so much harder to control, especially because it's basically like two people sneak in and take it. And so we've had a lot of games where it's like a Lee Sin jungle and just any top with a jump, and they just go in there and take it because they've cleared out enough vision that they can kind of just sneak in and take it. And with two people, it goes down incredibly quickly. No one seems to take like a huge amount of damage versus, as you said, with one, you just die.
Yeah.
And so
this is a two-person buff because of the backstab.
There's a lot of horrible moments where you go back to base, you come, you're like, oh good, that wave's gonna hit at my tower, I'm gonna farm it all. My top laner's missing. I don't think he's teleporting anywhere. 10 seconds, he comes back to lane with like a Baron buff, and you're like, oh no.
The moment where like, hey, I don't know where that guy is. You hear the like, it's like, oh, Rift Herald's gone. I was like, nah, damn it, right? And it's weird because you're not used to that. You're thinking like, oh, my person's missing. What is he doing? He's putting a trinket in your mid lane brush, like, and he's coming back to lane to sit there for a while. It's like, nah, man, there's real stuff happening.
My top laner goes missing. I think, oh, free farm for like 30
Yeah,
seconds.
it's like
this is great.
it's like cool. I get to breathe out. Maybe they're gonna teleport somewhere. Not my problem. It's like no,
Yeah.
it's your problem now.
By the way, they might have ignite, right? Like, they might actually just be there to kill you. Yeah.
by the way, you might die. We're discussing a lot of different possibilities. We're going in a couple rabbit holes here, but what is the failure case for this in your mind? Like, is there one possibility that you're just like, nope, we're done? If people find that's crazy or that's dominant or that becomes the best,
Right,
we're
yeah.
just
So
out?
like if we saw teams like, okay, this thing spawns, 4-man rush this thing, we got like, it is just the only thing you can care about. If we see it dominates all attention across the entire map, very clear failure case.
Yeah.
If we see people like no longer even know there is a dragon, right? Like technically there's 2 objectives on the map, one of them doesn't exist anymore. We'd
Right.
probably look to balance those out a little bit. But I mean, we're pretty open to this having some cool answers we're not expecting. The number of playtests we can do internally doesn't match what we see in like a day once this goes live.
Yeah.
So we're excited just to see where this goes. We have the goals of let tanky dudes have a thing they care about, a way to show like, this is how I'm strong. If we're moving towards that, we're generally pretty happy.
Kind of last thing I want to get into here is we have a bunch of changes to towers and minions that feel like they're going to speed the game up. Minions now deal more damage to and take less damage from enemy minions when your team is ahead. Towers as well are way squishier. They lose all of their armor and magic resist, and they only recoup some of it over the course of the game. So if you're able to knock out towers really quickly, you can make it to the next tier and the next tier before they start gaining that advantage. So this feels like, in combination with Rift Herald, in combination with a lack of vision control and some of these things, it feels like split push is set to come back in a really big way, and we might see games just kind of end out of nowhere.
Yeah, so the changes you're talking about, they are not aimed at making the game faster, slower, anything. What these changes are about are making sure that going and fighting is the way to win the game, essentially. Like, being aggressive when you are winning is how you win the game. We want to kill the starvation tactics that kind of just like controlled the season, where get a lead, wait for the team to get farther behind. That we want to get that gone. That needs to be not a thing.
We're like, we made a really strong play, we got a bunch of their stuff, and now we're just waiting on timers for more stuff to spawn while they kind of starve out.
We don't think that's a fun game.
Well, the thing is, starvation isn't because we want to starve. We don't like starving teams out. It's just the only way to progress in the game. We can't, well, Baron's not up, or we can't take Baron. We can't go for that. Right. If you can't siege, it's oftentimes like against a Victor or like a Nivea or any sort of mid laner that's being played, or that's a mage, is wave clear. And starvation is the only way we can actually win the game. And these changes don't really seem to fix that in the way that you intend to, because sure, your minions will push faster, but you're still gonna need a split pusher. Like, they're still gonna have wave clear, and you're still gonna have trouble pushing into the inhib turrets. So I'm not too sure if this change will actually have the impact that we're looking for, even though I would love that to be the case. I hate playing starvation.
So it's like, please God, I hope this is the case, but skeptical as it is the case. Matthias, have you guys seen this to be the case at all? Do you see, is Ziggs coming back?
Especially in our competitive playtest, we've kind of just seen games get destroyed. We did have that concern of like, oh, you can just, minions are pushing to you, take all that free farm, get to the late game, and just prevent anyone from taking your inhib towers. What we've actually seen is like more 20 minutes, not even surrenders, like bashing down the Nexus victories than I think we've had almost ever. So I think our concern almost goes the other way, is that especially if like one player who's tanking and can split push, or even just has the burst like Zed, they can just sit up in that lane and get a little bit of damage on towers again and again. With how squishy towers are, they just go down so quickly.
I'm just excited to see what players love, what we can do better, and just keep going. This is my favorite time of year.
And for you?
I guess I'm the scary cat here. Yeah. I'm so cautious. There's so many changes. I'm just trying to figure out, all right, hopefully this will make the game a lot more fun. I mean, I'm excited too. Preseason has always been very hectic and very like, oh, all right, well, we found what's OP, let's spam it, and then they nerf it, and then it's the next thing over and over. And until you get to a certain point where it's like, all right, the game feels pretty good. And I'm cautious. Like, these are really big changes, and I'm gonna need hundreds of games, even thousands of games, to be like really comfortable being like, found it. This is the way to play the game.
Are you a little cautious or especially worried?
That's it. We're done. Get the